The price of a piglet is 10 coins, but the price of the girl is 4 coins. The father sells the girl to a stranger for 4 coins. Because the girl has a very special look, she is also deformed and hunchbacked. She even can't do the simplest housework, and she is disliked by her family. The girl was put in a cell by strangers. She keeps banging on the door, not understanding why her family has abandoned her. Soon the girl is exhausted. She sees a mirror in the cell. That's the first time she could see her face. The girl finally understands the reason for her abandonment. She feels very desperate and breaks the mirror. The girl picks up the shards of glass and tries to end her life, but she is saved. A woman stands over her. She claimed to be the dean of the Magic Academy. She wants the girl not to give up on herself and to follow her to learn sorcery, because the dean knows that the girl is no ordinary person. The girl's name was Yennefer and she has a quarter of elven blood. There is a powerful force sealed in her body. The dean wanted to train her to become the strongest sorcerer on the continent. Yennefer feels valued for the first time, and she begins to learn sorcery. In the first lesson, she and her classmates need to try to control the levitation of a stone. Soon one of the students succeeds, but an accident happens. Her palm is eroded by the sorcery and grows black. She is in great pain and screams loudly. The dean tells the class that there is a price to pay for using spells. She gives the class a demonstration. As the stone levitates, the flower in her hand wilts. After the students mastered the method, they keep practicing. Many of the students succeeded. Only Yennefer didn't make any progress. The stone on her table didn't move at all. The dean is a little disappointed, and she is hard to believe that Yennefer is the one she has chosen. But time passed and soon the second class began. The students need to learn about telepathy, using sorcery to gain insight into the weaknesses of others. This is also difficult for Yennefer. With wide eyes, she keeps staring at her classmates. But after a long time, she still hadn't succeeded. She can only lie to the dean that her classmate's most feared animal is a snake. But Yennefer's lie was quickly dismantled by her classmate. The classmate also pointed out that Yennefer's greatest fear was her own face. The dean scolds Yennefer that she shouldn't have lied. Yennefer felt very depressed. She thinks that learning sorcery will change her life, but she doesn't make any progress. Yennefer found a male classmate to confide in. This male classmate was her first love, named Istrid. He encourages Yennefer and asks her to try to utilize his heart. They look at each other with their heads closed together. The atmosphere also becomes ambiguous. Encouraged by Istrid, Yennefer continues to learn sorcery. In the third class, the dean gives each student glass bottles. They come to a cave with a cavern above it. There is thunder and lightning, and it is where the spells are strongest. The lesson seems to be filled with the most danger. The dean asks the students to use the glass bottles in their hands to collect the lightning. One student volunteered to be the first to try. She raises the glass bottle. Her hands keep shaking. Suddenly an accident happened. The lightning struck the student and smoke came out of her body. But the dean doesn't tell the students to stop, but lets them keep trying. Accidents kept happening. One student collected the lightning, but the glass bottle broke. The shards scratched her eyes. Yennefer is also asked to try. She raises the bottle and looks up to the sky. In the next second, the lightning struck Yennefer and she flew away. Jean felt helpless. She no longer paid attention to Yennefer and continued to instruct the other students, failing one after another. Yennefer broke down. She screams loudly and releases the lightning in her body. But the dean reacted quickly and she sent the lightning back into the sky. The other students didn't get hurt until the end of class. The dean tells the other students to leave first. She talked to Yennefer alone. The dean always believed that Yennefer has great power in her body, but she must learn to control her emotions and spells or she will be consumed by them. The dean gives her a task and she needs to get close to Istrid again. Their relationship grows stronger, and Yennefer's emotions get under control. She tries to use the spells according to the incantations taught by Istrid and succeeds. She feels very happy. Yennefer confesses to Istrid that she has a quarter elven blood. It is the cause of her physical deformities. She did not realize that Istrid would betray herself. When Yennefer returns to her quarters, she hears a noise coming from the side. She looks through the hole to see what is going on. Yennefer saw the dean use a sorcery. She turns the 3 students with the worst grades into eels. Yennefer is very shocked. She asks the dean why she did this. The dean explains that the best thing a flower can do is wither. Yennefer realizes that she has to become stronger or she will be eliminated. She picks up a broom and sweeps the eel into the water. The change in Yennefer pleases the dean. From that day on, Yennefer focuses on learning sorcery. She has become an outstanding student representative. The graduation ceremony is about to hold. The students will be assigned to different countries. They are to serve the king. Before the graduation ceremony began, Yennefer met with the plastic surgeon. The plastic surgeon prepares her gown and promises to fix her deformity. deformed body. But soon Yennefer knows that she will be assigned to the Nilfgaardane Empire. It was a very poor country, and Yennefer's wishes to return to her homeland, Edirne. She is very disappointed and approaches the Dean. It wasn't the Dean's decision, but the members of the Warlock Academy Brotherhood. They know that the Edirne does not like elves and that Yennefer has a quarter elven blood. This information is revealed to the Brotherhood by Astrid. He was also given a promotion as a result, but Yennefer blames it on her ugly appearance. She approached the plastic surgeon again. She says she is willing to pay any price to change her appearance. The plastic surgeon agreed to her request because it was an implant surgery. The plastic surgeon didn't use anesthesia. He took the scalpel and reached under Yennefer's skirt. She feels so much pain that she screams at the top of her lungs. Her uterus is removed, and the price she pays is her fertility. The plastic surgeon applies a potion to Yennefer's body, then recites an incantation. The potion slowly flows downward, and Yennefer's skin is being burned as she screams out loud in pain. Her body keeps shaking and her voice is about to shatter the house. The chains holding her hands are also broken. Yennefer's deformed bones begin to remodel, and she is reborn in the flames. When she arrives at the graduation banquet, everyone is shocked. Yennefer's face was flawless, and her body became sexy. Everyone seemed to have forgotten Yennefer's original face and out to revel in her. King of Edirne even holds her hand. Yennefer succeeded in getting the chance to go to Edirne, and she would be promoted to the position of court sorceress. The two students who are assigned to Edirne, on the other hand, can only go to the Nilfgaardane Empire. They are not happy about this. Time passed. Yennefer had been serving in Edirne for decades. Her appearance had not changed, and her sorcery had become more and more powerful. But the political situation in Edirne is chaotic, and Yennefer is tired of it. At this time she is on a mission. She needs to protect a noble mother and daughter, but an accident happens. Their caravan is attacked by assassin. Yennefer sees all the soldiers killed, and their bodies become crushed. The assassin is also a sorcerer who can manipulate the monster mantis. Yennefer doesn't fight the assassin because she wants to protect her mother and daughter. She uses a sorcery to open a portal to escape. They cross from the snow to the desert, but the assassin and the mantis keep following them. The mantis monster attacks, and the last soldier is killed. They could only keep running forward. Yennefer uses the sorcery again to open the portal. After many crossings, they eventually arrive at the cliff. Yennefer is exhausted, and she kneels on the ground very weak. Suddenly the noblewoman blames Yennefer for her dereliction of duty. She should have foreseen the danger. The noblewoman didn't realize that the assassins are sent by her husband. Because she has never given birth to a son, her husband has lost patience with her. Yennefer is enraged. When the next danger comes, she uses a sorcery to leave alone. The assassin and the mantis monster step towards the noblewoman. She offers the lives of her children in exchange. The assassin is given orders to kill the noblewoman and her daughter, and he will spare no one. After the noblewoman is killed, the mantis monster continues to attack the baby. Yennefer crosses back in time. She cuts the mantis monster's head off. Yennefer doesn't want the innocent baby to get hurt, but this time, she crosses into the sea. The sea keeps lapping at their bodies. Although Yennefer tries to protect the baby, she passes away because of the seawater. The baby's face is very pale, and Yennefer has no way to use sorcery to revive her. She feels helpless and agonized. She sacrificed her fertility in order to become the most powerful sorcerer. Yennefer has more love and compassion for her baby. The accident makes her want to be a mother even more. The deaths of the female nobles also sent chills down her spine. The crown is ruthless, and they can kill unsatisfied nobles. They may also kill sorcerers who cannot serve their country. Yennefer decides to give up her career as a courtesan sorcerer. She wants to return to ordinary life and rediscover her fertility. Yennefer lives in a small town after leaving Aden. She uses her sorcery to heal people and in exchange for a living. In fact, Yennefer has another purpose. She knows that there is a spirit called Jinn. The Jinn can grant 3 wishes to its master, unconditionally. Yennefer hopes to find it and use it to regain her fertility. When the head know that Yennefer has given up her profession, she arrives in the small town. She persuades Yennefer to return to work at the academy. Yennefer is a powerful sorcerer with a quarter of elven blood, and her powers are enough to change the world. The dean thinks it's a great shame that she gave up being a sorcerer, but she was turned down, and Yennefer is tired of living that way. But life in a small town isn't going well. Because of Yennefer's sizable income, the mayor of the town often harassed her, demanding that she pay high taxes. Yennefer doesn't cooperate, and she even asks the mayor to arrest her. When she arrived at the mayor's house, she quickly became the master. She controls everyone with her sorcery. They become addicted to each other's flesh. But soon, an unexpected thing happened. A man breaks into the mayor's house, and he says he's looking at Yennefer. The man's friend was very weak, and his body was corrupted by the sorcery. The man wants Yennefer to heal his friend with sorcery, The man tells Yennefer about their experience. The man's name is Geralt, and he is a witcher who specializes in killing monsters, and his friend Dandelion is a bard. They are also looking for the djinn, and have captured it. The djinn lives in a bottle, and Dandelion tries to snatch the bottle. Eventually, the bottle is snatched by Dandelion, and the lid is in the hands of Geralt. Dandelion believes that he is the owner of the djinn, and he begins to make a wish. Dandelion's voice is very loud, and Geralt is getting angry. He yelled, "I wish you'd be quiet," and suddenly there was a big wind in the forest. Dandelion fell sick too, because Geralt is the master of the djinn. The djinn are granting him his first wish. The sorcery is about to take away Dandelion's voice, and he even spits out blood. Geralt realizes that something is wrong, and that Dandelion must be treated immediately. They ride to a nearby town for help. An elven doctor offers them a potion, but the doctor says that his sorcery is not strong enough. If they wanted to heal the damage from the sorcery, they would need to seek treatment from Yennefer. Geralt learns that Yennefer is at the mayor's house, and he brings Dandelion with him. After Yennefer learns about what Geralt experienced, she has a new plan. She wants to snatch Jin away from her. She pretends to agree to treat Dandelion and then seduces Geralt with her beauty. She offers to deliver a kiss to Geralt. Soon Geralt passes out as Yennefer uses the drug. She even controls the mayor of the town and puts Geralt in jail. Yennefer believes that Dandelion is the master of the djinn. She is going to complete the sacrifice spell to make Dandelion the new vessel that will contain the djinn. Dandelion is so scared that he doesn't even know how to cooperate with Yennefer. She decides to complete the spell alone, which allows Dandelion to find and escape. Meanwhile, inside the prison, Geralt is being beaten. He can't take it anymore. He yells and lets the cursed jailer die. The next second, the jailer's head is gone. Geralt knows it is the djinn who helped him to get his second wish. Geralt is the master of the djinn. He has no time to repent. He needs to go and save Dandelion. Very coincidentally, Geralt and Dandelion meet on the road. Dandelion recounts what happened to him. Geralt knows that Yennefer is in danger and that the magic will consume her. Geralt decides to stop her madness. He sees that powerful sorcery is consuming Yennefer, a power he cannot defeat. The only one who can defeat the djinn is the djinns themselves. Geralt can only utter a third wish, and his life becomes linked to Yennefer, because the djinn could not kill its master. When Geralt's life was linked to Yennefer, Yennefer was saved. Soon the sorcery dissipated. The house also began to collapse. Luckily, neither Geralt nor Yennefer are hurt. After the calamity, they developed feelings. Although they hadn't known each other for a long time, but powerful people always attract each other. They become more and more familiar, and Yennefer learns about Geralt's story. His story was as exciting as Yennefer's life experience. Geralt's story begins with a fight. He is hunting a giant spider monster. He cuts off one of the spider monster's legs with his sword. Geralt is not afraid of the spider monster. He keeps swinging his weapon, and the spider monster's other leg is caned off. The spider monster starts to explode in power and it tries to fight back against Geralt. Geralt's weapon falls to the ground, and his neck is choked by the spider monster. Even his head is attacked. Geralt uses all his strength and escapes from the spider monster. In the end, he cuts off the monster's head. The confrontation is won by the warrior. The spider monster just one of the monsters that Geralt killed. Geralt is a famous witcher. He can kill any monster if he is paid enough, but he is not respected because people think he kills too much. His hands are covered in blood. When Geralt comes to the tavern to collect his bounty, everyone looks at him with disgust. Some people provoke Geralt with provocation, and others pick up weapons and try to drive him away. The atmosphere became more and more tense. But a woman dressed in red stops everyone. She is prestigious in the tavern. The woman handed Geralt a glass of wine, and she seemed to have something to ask for help. Before the woman can say the request, however, a little girl interrupts them. The little girl states that there is an urgent mission needs to be completed by Geralt for more bounty. Geralt and the little girl leave the tavern. They go to the client's home together. The little girl admires the witcher so much that she keeps talking to Geralt. The door of the client's house is enchanted, and normal people can't break the magic and walk in, but it is not difficult for Geralt. The client is Stregober, a famous sorcerer in the town. He asks Geralt to kill the woman in red. Geralt is very shocked because he only kills monsters. He doesn't kill people. Geralt asks Stregober why. Stregober says that the woman in red is named Renfri, and that she was once a princess. Renfri was born shortly after the eclipse and has a very violent personality. Stregober predicts that she is a monster and that her destiny is to be killed. Stregober has been tracking Renfri for many years, but has not been able to complete his mission. Geralt believes that as a demon hunter, he should remain neutral, and not to kill people is his bottom line. Geralt still refuses the commission mission, but Stregober cautions Geralt, you have to choose the lesser evil. As a sorcerer, Stregober believes in prophecy and predestination. This is something he must do. He wants Geralt to think it over. Geralt leaves Stregober's house. He meets up with Renfri in the forest. Because Geralt does not want to hurt her, he can only warn her to leave town for the day. However, Renfri says that she too has a commission that she wants Geralt to fulfill. Her commission is to kill Stregobo. Because Stregobo has ruined her life. She used to be a noble princess, but now she can only keep running for her life. She even becomes a bandit leader. But Geralt says that killing those people will only show that Renfri is a real monster. His words seem to move Renfri and she says she will leave tonight. She kisses Renfri in gratitude, but after that kiss, Renfri falls into a coma. When he wakes up again, he realizes that he has been tricked. All of his belongings has been stolen by Renfri. Geralt is so angry that he runs back to the town to find Renfri, but all of her associates are standing in front of the tavern with weapons in their hands. They even say that the little girl who led the way for Geralt yesterday has been taken hostage. Renfri threatens that Geralt must kill Stregober. Geralt feels so helpless that he has to break his bottom line. He has to fight with Renfri's gang and just save the innocent little girl. Suddenly an arrow is shot at Geralt, but he copes with it very easily. Geralt's sword kept plunging into the enemy's body, because normal people are no match for demon hunters. Soon, Geralt kills Renfri's companion. Geralt used sorcery to try to confuse Renfri's mind, but the sorcery doesn't work on her. In order to save the little girl, Geralt can only continue to attack Renfri with his weapon. In fact, Geralt still doesn't want to hurt Renfri. His weapon crosses in front of Stregober's throat, but he stops moving. But Renfri has lost her mind, and she keeps attacking Geralt. Eventually, Geralt's dagger stabs into Renfri's neck. At this time, Stregober also arrives. He is very happy to see Stregober's body. He tries to disembowel the body and study it, but Geralt stops him, which makes Stregober very angry. He describes Geralt as a murderer with blood on his hands and leads the people to attack him. Stones keep hitting Geralt, and he is called the Butcher. Even the girl who admired him so much starts to drive him away. In the end, he has no choice but to leave the town. He never comes back. After leaving town, Geralt begins a life of wandering. In his spare time, he likes to have a drink at the tavern. Today, he meets a bard who is performing. He keeps playing instruments and singing. He adapts the things he has experienced into stories, and then composes them into songs. The bard is named Dandelion and he has heard about Geralt becoming a butcher. He is very interested in Geralt and strikes up a conversation. When Geralt tells him that he has received a new commission, Dandelion decides to go with Geralt to record the story of the Witcher, but Geralt gets impatient with Dandelion and even punches him. But Dandelion doesn't give up following. The new mission is to kill a goat monster that steals food. Soon, they arrive at the field to stop Dandelion from causing trouble. Geralt knocks him out. While Geralt is investigating, the goat monster bursts out of the field and it knocks Geralt off his feet. The Witcher hunter immediately explodes with power and he fights back against the goat monster. The goat monster is knocked down and it is very angry and keeps insulting Geralt. But Geralt doesn't want to kill the goat monster. Suddenly, Geralt was knocked out by the elves. They take Geralt and Dandelion back to the tribe. They keep beating Geralt because the elves hate humans and demon hunters. The elves are always driven away by the humans, and their civilization is gradually disappearing because of the expansion of the humans. They even need the goat monsters to steal food in order to continue to survive. But Geralt persuades the elves that they should learn to get along with the humans. The goat monster also pleads for Geralt's mercy because he did not kill himself. In the end, the elves let Geralt go, and Geralt gives the goat monster the bounty for his work. He continues on his journey with Dandelion, as they already have a new mission. His destination is another country, Temeria. In Temeria, there is a very scary bird named Striga, which has killed many miners. The miners collected 3,000 coins to hire a witch to kill Striga. A witch accepts the mission and goes to Striga's castle, but unfortunately, he is killed by Striga. When the miners didn't know what to do, Geralt appeared. He says he can finish the quest and collect the money after he finished the quest. The miners are happy, but the soldiers come to stop them, and they try to deport Geralt. As they walk towards the gates, the soldiers suddenly faint. A woman in a cloak appears. She is a sorcerer and her name is Triss. She wants Geralt to help her with her mission, but instead of killing Striga, she wants to help lift its curse. Geralt investigates Striga with Triss, and he learns where Striga came from. Because the king of Temeria and her sister fell in love, they gave birth to the monster Striga. But why did the king of Temeria and her sister fall in love with each other? It was because a sorcerer had cursed them. When Geralt tells the king about this, he is determined to help Striga break the curse, and to punish the sorcerer. They tie up the sorcerer in his lair and lure Striga into appearing. Soon Geralt hears the coffin being opened, and Striga howling. The sorcerer struggles desperately. Suddenly, he feels something falling behind him, but he didn't see anything. By the time he looks around again, Striga has killed him. Striga's palms are covered in blood, and the floor is covered in blood. Geralt knows it's time for action, and he rushes in with the silver chain. He throws the silver chain out, and it quickly wraps around Striga. However, Striga Striga easily breaks free and then flies up and lunges at Geralt, who keeps fighting back and even uses a spell. The Striga is injured, but it is still very powerful, and Geralt is thrown to the ground and able to move. Striga opens its huge mouth, and Geralt can only unleash the spell again. The spell shatters the floor, and the shards of the Striga are destroyed, and Geralt can't move. The spell shatters the floor and debris falls from the second floor and crushes the Striga. The Striga quickly regains its strength and throws Geralt off the floor, where he crashes into a pillar. Though Geralt is an outstanding witch, he is out of stamina. He seems to have lost the ability to fight back. Suddenly the Striga stops attacking and runs away, and Geralt is puzzled until he sees the sun coming up. Striga is afraid of the sunlight. It tries to hide in the coffin again. He forces Striga to be bathed in sunlight, and the curse on it is lifted. After some time, Geralt climbs out of the coffin. He sees a smoking woman on the ground. Although Striga has been lifted from the curse, she still resembles the beast. She attacks the weakened Geralt again. Luckily, Triss saves her and takes him home for his healing. Triss has great respect for Geralt, and they become friends. And Triss says that while he was in a coma, he kept yelling out the name Renfri. Renfri's death made Geralt feel very guilty. That's why he decides to lift Striga's curse, because they're both princesses. Geralt tries to make amends. When Geralt recovers, he continues his wanderings with the bard Dandelion. After leaving Demeria, they come to the forest. Geralt knows of a powerful elf that lives in the lake. Its name is Jin, and it can grant 3 wishes to its master unconditional. Geralt awakens to find Jin and tames it. He uses a fishing net to fish in the lake. Dandelion keeps nagging him that Geralt must have failed, and Geralt becomes more and more annoyed. Before he gets completely pissed off, he reaps a reward. The fishing net catches a bottle, in which Jin lives. Dandelion's attitude begins to change, and he tries to grab the bottle. He takes the bottle, and the lid is in Geralt's hands. Dandelion thinks he is Jin's master, and he starts to make a wish. Dandelion's voice is very loud, and Geralt was getting angry and yelled, "I wish you'd be quiet." Suddenly, there is a strong wind in the forest and Dandelion feels sick. Dandelion is also feeling sick, because Geralt is the master of Jin, and Jin is granting him his first wish. The sorcery is about to take away Dandelion's voice, and he even vomits blood. Geralt realizes that something is wrong, and that Dandelion must be treated immediately. They ride to a nearby town for help. An elven doctor offers them a potion, but he says that his sorcery is not strong enough. If they want to heal the damage, they need to find Yennefer. The story of what happened later. As you all know, Geralt helps Yennefer, who has been corrupted by a spell. Their destinies are tightly intertwined. Soon they will start a new adventure. On this day, Geralt receives a new assignment. An old man asks him to join a team of dragon hunters to hunt green dragons. At first, Geralt doesn't want to get involved. Although he is a witcher, he only kills monsters, not dragons. When he knows that Yennefer has joined, he agrees to the request. Geralt doesn't want Yennefer to face the danger alone. On the way to the green dragon's lair, Geralt asks Yennefer why she wants to join the team. Yennefer says that the dragon's heart can cure any disease. She hopes to use the dragon's heart to restore her fertility, but Geralt tells her that the rumors are false. But Yennefer doesn't give up. When they reach the green dragon's lair, they see the green dragon lying on the ground. It had died protecting its eggs. This scene broke Yennefer's heart. She couldn't be a mother, so she admired the Great Mother very much. She wanted to avenge the green dragon and kill the poachers, but Geralt advised her to calm down. Suddenly, a golden dragon appeared in the cave and it roared loudly. The golden dragon is the leader of the dragons, and it is rumored that it has been dead for many years. But witnessing the death of the green dragon, Yennefer decides to fight for the dragons. As more and more poachers arrive at the cave, they surround Geralt and Yennefer, and a fierce battle begins. But Geralt and Yennefer are powerful, and they can use sorcery. The poachers have a hard time defeating them. They even had a chance to kiss. It's fun. Soon, Geralt and Yennefer rush out of the cave. The poachers are numerous, and they keep attacking. The battle continues. One of the poachers sees the eggs and tries to take them away. When the golden dragon saw what he was doing, flames came out of its mouth. The poacher is burned. In the end, Yennefer plunges his dagger into the throat of the last poacher, and they are victorious. They succeeded in guarding the dragons. The golden dragon also took on human form. He gives the dragoness teeth to the people who help the dragons. Then he talks to Geralt and Yennefer. They are surprised because the dragon hunt was started by this old man. They don't realize that the old man is the golden dragon. The purpose of the golden dragon is to kill the poachers with the help of Geralt and Yennefer, and to protect the dragon. They accomplished their mission. Well, the golden dragon admires them and says that Geralt and Yennefer are a match made in heaven. Yennefer is puzzled. She believes that her love for Geralt arose from their shared experience of the havoc Jin came to bring. In fact, Geralt tries to save Yennefer, who has been corrupted by a sorcery. He makes a wish to Jin. He creates a connection with Yennefer's life. Yennefer is very angry and she thinks that Geralt's feelings are fake. Geralt takes the liberty of changing the course of her life. She begins to verbally abuse Geralt. Eventually, they both lose control of their emotion. Yennefer decides to leave, and Geralt is very disappointed. But Golden Dragon reassures him that Yennefer is not the only woman in his life. The connection between him and Yennefer is caused by Jin's accident, and his true predestination had been ordained by heaven years ago. That important person is waiting for Geralt's protection. Meanwhile, the Golden Dragon hints that the important person is in danger. The dragon's prophecy draws Geralt's attention. He is lost in his memories and gets an answer. The important person is Cirilla, the princess of the kingdom of Sia and Tiore. It seems that Geralt is being summoned by mysterious forces, and he has to give up his search for Yennefer for a while. He must go back to Sintra and find Cirilla. On his way, Geralt sees a huge army that is also heading to Sintra. The army is from the Nilfgaard Empire. The army comes to the Nilfgaardian Empire and Sintra is in danger as never before. Geralt arrives in Sintra before the army arrives. He reminisces about what happened 12 years ago, and he has a thrilling story to tell about his time in Sintra. 12 years ago, Geralt defeated very many monsters as a witcher. His friend Dandelion, the bard, adapted his story into a song. The song circulated across the continent. Geralt's popularity grew. He receives an invitation from the kingdom of Sintra, where he is going to attend a banquet, and Queen Calanth is choosing a prince for her daughter, Princess Pavetta. Nobles from various countries came to attend. Suddenly, a knight who looks like a hedgehog kneels before the queen and asks to marry the princess. The princess also agrees to the Hedgehog Knight's request. This shocked all the nobles. Queen Calanth feels humiliated and she is very angry. She orders her soldiers to kill the Hedgehog Knight, but the Hedgehog Knights kill the soldiers easily. Other nobles join in the fight, and their weapons keep stabbing the hedgehog. Gradually, he becomes powerless to fight back, and even injured and bleeding. Just when the Hedgehog Knight is about to be killed, the Witcher Geralt suddenly appears. He cuts the nobleman's weapon with his sword. Geralt helps the Hedgehog Knight to fend off the attack because Geralt knows that he is innocent. Fate has made it necessary for the Hedgehog Knight and the princess to become lovers, and he does not deserve to be killed by the queen. The fight becomes violent again, and Queen Calanth can't stand it. She rises from her throne and then seizes the soldiers' weapons. Till then, Geralt knows why Queen Calanth invited him to the banquet, because she wants to use Geralt to kill the Hedgehog Knight. But Geralt stops her attack with his sword and persuades the queen to remain calm. Princess Pavetta doesn't want her lover to be hurt. She cries and runs into the hall. She hugs the Hedgehog Knight tightly and then caresses his face. Queen Calanth can't believe her eyes. Her daughter has fallen in love with an ugly monster. She pretends to accept everything and hands over her weapon. Then the queen extends her hand and gives her blessing to the Hedgehog Knight. However, as the queen nears his ear, she says, "Death is your destiny." In the next second, the queen drew her dagger and tried to kill the Hedgehog Knight. Princess Pavetta shouted and unleashed a powerful sorcery. Everyone around her fly out of the room, and the powerful air currents make it hard to breathe. Even the glass on the face window becomes shattered. Then, Hedgehog Knight and Princess Pavetta begin to slowly rise. They gaze at each other, and no one could separate the two lovers. The air currents are getting stronger and the palace seems to be starting to collapse. To protect everyone, Geralt and a sorcerer begin to use sorcery. Finally, they destroy the air currents. The Hedgehog Knight and Princess Pavetta fall to the ground. Queen Calanth knows that there is nothing she can do to stop her daughter, and the ministers persuade her to believe in destiny. She could only agree to marry Princess Pavetta to the Hedgehog Knight. They kneel down and receive Queen Calanth's true blessing. Then they kiss each other. Suddenly, the Hedgehog Knight begins to convulse and falls to the ground. As everyone looks on, his appearance returns to normal. The Hedgehog Knight's curse is broken, and his predestination has been fulfilled. But why is it say that this is a predestination? Why does everyone respect predestination? It comes from an ancient law, the law of surprise. Everyone on this continent needs to follow this law. According to the law of surprise, if someone is saved when they are in danger, the person who saves another person can ask for payment from the person who was saved. He can ask for something that the rescued person doesn't know he has. And such a thing is usually the child of the rescued person. Because the Hedgehog Knight once saved Queen Calanth's husband, the Hedgehog Knight can have their child, Princess Pavetta. They are a fated couple. By the same reasoning, Geralt also saves Hedgehog Knight and Princess Pavetta, so Geralt can get their child. At this time, Princess Pavetta is pregnant, and the unborn princess becomes Geralt's destiny. Geralt is shocked. Although he believes in predestination, he is the Witcher. He faces danger all the time, and he can't be responsible for a child. Geralt doesn't want to face this. and even tries to use sorcery to release himself from the law of surprise. Soon he leaves Sintra and sets out on wanderlust again with his friend Dandarian. He knows that there is a powerful genie in the forest named Jin, who can grant 3 wishes unconditionally to its owner. Geralt wants to get Jin and use it to release the law of surprise between himself and Princess Pavetta's child. Eventually, when he finds Jin, something unexpected happens. He meets Yennefer, a female sorcerer, and their lives become connected. Geralt forgets about the law of surprise for a while. He begins a new story with Yennefer. It has been nearly 12 years since Geralt left Sintra, and the Golden Dragon's prophecy makes it necessary for Geralt to return to Sintra. Geralt arrives in Sintra before the army arrives. However, when Queen Calanthe knows about his arrival, she orders a group of soldiers to prevent him from entering the palace. They get into a fight and Geralt feels helpless, but because of his mission, he can only kill the soldiers. Then he enters the palace to meet Queen Calanthe. Queen Calanthe does not intend to give her granddaughter to him. Geralt left Sintra 12 years ago and Princess Cirilla has grown up. Queen Calanthe loves her very much, and she believes she has the power to protect Cirilla. She even doesn't believe that the Nilfgaardian Empire has the power to defeat her country. 12 years ago, when Queen Calanthe hosted a banquet for Princess Pavetta, a nobleman from the Nilfgaardian Empire came to propose. The queen mocked him mercilessly. Because the Nilfgaardian Empire is a very poor country, Queen Calanthe has no fear of them. In order to get Geralt to leave early, Queen Calanthe finds a double to pretend to be Cirilla. After they leave the palace, Geralt sees the fake Cirilla saying goodbye to her friends. He knew that Cirilla is a princess favored by Queen Calanthe, and that she doesn't have commoner friends. The deception is quickly dismantled by Geralt. He angrily returns to the palace to confront Queen Calanthe. The queen still says that she does not believe in predestination, and that she tries to violate the will of heaven. She even has Geralt imprisoned. Geralt knows that the armies of the Nilfgaardian Empire are about to arrive in Sintra, and he wants no part of the fighting between the nations. His destiny is to protect Princess Cirilla, and Geralt escapes from prison. Queen Calanthe is holding a ball when the Nilfgaardian Empire's army arrives. She gets news of the war from her servants. Queen Calanthe asks a warlock named Mousak to take care of Cirilla, and they take an escort to a remote castle for a while. Queen Calanthe leads her army into battle against the armies of the Nilfgaardian Empire. Surprisingly, the once impoverished the Nilfgaardian Empire has become very powerful. Queen Calanthe's army was retreating and the ground was full of soldiers' remains. Even worse, they hear that reinforcements from neighboring countries have been caught in a storm and have all sunk in the sea. Eventually, Sintra's army was left defenseless against the enemy, and even Queen Calanthe's husband was killed by an arrow. Queen Calanthe is badly hurt and returns to the palace. Soon the palace is surrounded by the Nilfgaardian Empire's army, and Mousak uses a sorcery spell to temporarily resist the army's attack. The army is unable to break through the palace, and then Queen Calanthe finally believes in predestination. She wasn't able to protect her granddaughter. The country is about to fall and the queen makes a choice. She orders her soldiers to take Cirilla to the prison to find Geralt and ask him to take Cirilla away. But Cirilla refuses, screaming at the top of her lungs. Queen Calanthe admonishes her, "Geralt is your destiny." After Cirilla leaves, Queen Calanthe orders the distribution of poison to all the surviving people. She knows that the Nilfgaardian Empire doesn't need prisoners. They will kill everyone. Finally, Queen Calanthe watches her country go up in flames. She jumped from the palace and ended her life. She doesn't realize that Cirilla hasn't found Geralt because Geralt has broken out of prison and escaped. At this moment, Geralt is in the palace and he sees Queen Calanthe commit suicide. He still wants to protect Cirilla. He kills all the soldiers of the Nilfgaardian Empire, but he does not find Cirilla, because when the soldiers and Cirilla realize that Geralt has escaped from prison, they choose to leave the palace. They are captured by Cahir, the leader of the Nilfgaardian Empire's army. All the soldiers are killed, and Cahir tries to take Cirilla back to the army's camp. Cirilla sees that her country has been destroyed and all her family members have died. She lets out a scream of despair, and the energy in her body is released. Her energy is even more powerful than her mother, Princess Pavetta. Her voice makes the stone monument shatter and the ground crack. Cahir is blocked by the cracks and Cirilla escapes. She disappears into the night, though Geralt returns to Sintra before danger strikes, but for various reasons, he fails to fulfill his mission. He misses Cirilla. In the following days, Cirilla keeps escaping and Geralt doesn't give up looking for her. Their story continues. After Cirilla escapes from Cahir, she goes to the forest, but soldiers keep patrolling and she can be caught at any time. Cirilla applies mud to her hair to hide her identity. She is so tired and thirsty. When she sees berries, she tries to eat some to satiate her hunger. Suddenly a stone hits her and she becomes becomes nervous, but the boy didn't mean any harm. He just wanted to tell Cirilla that the berries are poisonous. The boy also prepares a lunch for Cirilla. During the conversation, Cirilla learns that the boy's name is Dar, and that he is an elven boy who is kind. But Cirilla knows she can't stay in the forest for long. She finished her lunch and says goodbye to Dara. She leaves the forest alone. Then Cirilla blended into the refugee camp and she tried to find someone who could shelter her. Fortunately, a noblewoman is willing to take her in. Although she doesn't like Queen Calanthe, Cirilla's grandmother, she lets her stay in her tent. However, the refugee camp is not safe. At night, the Nilfgaardane Empire army begins to raid, and the camp becomes chaotic. However, the noblewoman has an argument with the servant. She scolds the servant and even slaps him. The servant, no longer patient, plunged his sword into the noblewoman's body. The noblewoman screams loudly, but the servant still doesn't stop. The noblewoman reaches out her hand, hoping that Cirilla will save her. But Cirilla is scared, and she keeps backing away. Suddenly, the tent is cut by a knife and Cirilla is saved. She sees that the ground is full of remains and screams fill her ears. The enemy army is massacring. Cirilla's country has been destroyed and all her family members have died. Everything is out of order. The only thing Cirilla can do is to run for her life. If she is caught by the enemy army, she will be killed too. Cirilla runs after the people who saved her and they don't stop until they escape into the forest. The next day, Cirilla finally gets a good look at the person who saved her. It's Dara who served Cirilla lunch yesterday. He is willing to take Cirilla to a safer place. As they walk through the forest, Cirilla sees a light up ahead. She is attracted to it and keeps walking towards the light. Suddenly, Cirilla is surrounded by a group of people who are tree spirits living in the area. The tree elves are hostile to Cirilla's intrusion into their territory. They take their weapons and step towards the princess. But when they see that both Cirilla and Dara have wounds on their bodies, they give up their attack. They even heal Dara. The tree elves poured spring water on Dara's wounds and he felt pain. Cirilla and Dara decide to stay here for a while. They talk until late at night. Cirilla doesn't realize that the enemy army hasn't given up tracking her. In Cirilla's country, Sintra, her sorcery teacher, Malsek, has been caught. He is beaten by Cahir, the leader of the Nilfgaardane Empire army. He vomits, but he does not reveal Cirilla's whereabouts. This makes the Nilfgaardane Empire lose patience. Cahir finds a boy named Doppler who can copy anyone's appearance. Malsak tries to escape, but he is caught. Doppler's eyes are fixed on Malsak, and soon their faces become identical. Doppler will take on Malsak's identity to find Cirilla and trick her, and the real Malsak is murdered. They use sorcery to track Cirilla's location and soon know that she is in the forest. When the fake Malsak enters the forest, the tree elves quickly arrest him. Cirilla is very excited when she sees the fake Malsak. She explains everything to the tree elves and expresses her hope to leave with Malsak. Although the tree elves are a little worried, they have no reason to detain Cirilla. On the way out of the forest, Cirilla keeps asking Malsak about her homeland, Sintra. She also wants to know why Queen Calanthe said that Geralt was her destiny. For when Cirilla asks Malsak how he escaped from the Nilfgaardane Empire army, he can't answer. This leaves Cirilla and Dara puzzled. Malsak is the sorcery teacher for Cirilla and her mom, Princess Pavetta. He spends a lot of time with Cirilla to verify Malsak's identity. Cirilla makes up a false memory. The fake Malsak falls for it, and his identity is revealed. He becomes cranky and yells at Cirilla. Seeing this, Dara attacks the fake Malsak with a knife. They get into a fight. As Dara is in danger, Cirilla quickly plunges her weapon into the fake Malsak's neck. Soon he turned back into Doppler. Cirilla wants to kill Doppler, but Dara hesitates. Doppler starts to fight back. Dara is knocked down. Cirilla is so scared that she runs away alone. She keeps running through the forest. When she passes by a cabin, someone suddenly kidnaps her. The kidnapper is Cahir, who is worried that Doppler won't be able to complete his mission, so he keeps following it. When he sees Cirilla running away, Cahir quickly captures her. He pretends to be friendly and talks to Cirilla, but Cirilla ignores him. However, when Cahir turns around, Cirilla's appearance becomes exactly like his. Because it is not Cirilla but Doppler, they have a fierce fight. Because Doppler knows that Cirilla's body contains power from the ancient world, Doppler can't hurt her. He blames Cahir for not telling the truth, but Doppler didn't have the power to defeat Cahir and soon he escaped. Doppler didn't tell him where Cirilla was. Doppler didn't kill Cirilla but tied her to a tree. Soon Dara finds Cirilla and saves her. They have an argument over their treatment of Doppler, and Dara blames Cirilla for being a heartless person. Finally, they decide to go their separate ways and Cirilla begins a new journey alone. She arrives in a small town to live. She has to sell her ring. She also inquires about her hometown and the war. The Nilfgaardane Empire army did not stop their aggression after defeating Sintra. They plan to continue their march to the north and invade other countries. The news reached the academy and the members of the Brotherhood were discussing the matter heatedly. A part of the sorcerers didn't want to get involved in the war, but another part of the sorcerers think that what the Nilfgaardane Empire is doing is wrong, and they want to hold back the army. This includes Yennefer. You may be wondering why Yennefer has reappeared in the academy. Initially, the dean dean invited her back to work and she had declined. After parting with Geralt at the Green Dragon's lair, Yennefer goes to the Nilfgaardane Empire in search of her first love Istrid. Yennefer once again expresses her love to him. However, Istrid is obsessed with his research, and he treats Yennefer with some indifference. When he leaves, another man strikes up a conversation with Yennefer. He says that he is from the academy, and that the academy is in need of many warlocks to serve. The man says that the dean praised Yennefer as one of the best students she had ever taught. The dean misses her so much. Yennefer seems to have no better place to go and she chooses to return to the academy with the man. Although she has been away from the academy for many years, nothing there seems to have changed. Yennefer can even see her old self in the mirror. The students are in class, and Yennefer tells them about her experiences. She sacrificed her fertility to become a powerful sorceress. Without the use of anesthesia, she underwent an operation. The students were shocked. Yennefer takes them back to the cave and tells them about what happened in class. She warns the students that if their grades are poor, they will be turned into eels by the dean. Suddenly, the dean interrupts Yennefer and she scolds Yennefer for not telling the students these things. There are more important things waiting for Yennefer, because the Brotherhood is discussing about the Nilfgaardane Empire's war of aggression against other nations. The dean wants Yennefer to be involved. Their discussion is very intense. Some sorcerers believe that the Nilfgaardane Empire used many forbidden magic spells during the war. This damaged the sorceress' reputation. Soon, the sorcerers who worked for the Nilfgaardane Empire arrive. She falsely claims that the Nilfgaardane Empire will not continue to attack other nations. However, a portion of the sorcerers express doubts and concerns. Finally, the members of the Brotherhood take a vote. 13 sorcerers were willing to volunteer to fight to stop the Nilfgaardane Empire, and Yennefer was one of them. When Cirilla gets the news, she knows a greater danger is approaching. She is not safe and she wants to keep running, but a woman stops her. She knows that Cirilla is wandering and the kind woman wants to adopt her. Cirilla refuses the woman and she steals a horse and leaves the town. But at night, Cirilla has a new problem. She encounters a group of Sintra refugees in the wilderness who discover Cirilla's status as a princess. They try to grab Cirilla and hand her over to the Nilfgaardane Empire to get the bounty. Cirilla keeps fighting back, and the great energy in her body is once again triggered. She threw back her head and screamed, and a strong stream of air formed. Cirilla even tells a prophecy of her ancestors. The prophecy mentioned that the world would be plunged into a long war. After the war, the climate will become colder and colder. Ice and snow will cover the whole world, and the human race will be plunged into hunger and pestilence. Then Cirilla fell into a coma. She doesn't wake up until morning. She sees that all the people who attacked her last night died because of the power of her outburst. Some of the bodies are hanging from trees, which makes Cirilla feel self-conscious. The warm-hearted woman who tried to help Cirilla yesterday reappeared and she comforted Cirilla. She asked if she could come to her home to rest. This time, Cirilla chooses to listen to the woman. She continues to inquire about the war and receives heartbreaking news. In order to stop the attack of the Nilfgaardane Empire's army, Yennefer and the warlocks traveled by boat to Sodden Hill. Their hearts were heavy, for they knew the odds were against them. Sodden City is on a cliff, and the environment is somewhat harsh. The inhabitants of the city tell the sorcerers of the brutality of the Nilfgaardane Empire, which makes them even more determined to win the battle. The volunteer army had no advanced weapons. They had to make their own. Everyone is on edge and doesn't stop until nightfall. Yennefer meets Triss, the sorcerer who worked with Geralt on the Striga. She tells Yennefer that the kingdom of Temeria will send reinforcements because she and Geralt have helped the king. But when Yennefer hears Geralt's name, she is somewhat unpleasant. She urges Triss to be wary of Geralt. At the same time, the Nilfgaardane Empire army is preparing for war. The sorcerer brings back news for Cahir, the leader of the army. They know that there are 13 female warlocks on Sodden City, so they decide to launch a sneak attack at night. In order to win the war, they use the forbidden sorcery again. The life of a sorcerer was sacrificed and her body quickly became dry. Finally, she crafts a fireball. The fireball is launched towards Sodden City. Yennefer is sleeping when she senses danger is approaching and she uses a spell to ward off the fireball. The fireball explodes in the sky. The Nilfgaardane Empire's plan to sneak up on them doesn't work, and they have to wait until dawn to launch a second attack. Yennefer stands on the city wall and looks out. She sees smoke covering the forest. Because a sorcerer is using spells, Trias starts to fight back. She put her hands on the grass and mouthed a spell. Poisonous mushrooms grow in the forest and poisonous blisters fill the air. The Nilfgaardane Empire soldiers die of poisoning. At the same time, the volunteer army threw explosives into the air and then detonated them with arrows. Many soldiers were killed. The Nilfgaardane Empire knew that they could not win with cold weapons, and they used sorcery again. The sorcerers recited an incantation, and a black portal appeared on the ground. Countless arrows flew out of the portal, resulting in the deaths of many volunteers. The sorcerers continued to use the black parasites that could disorient the mind. Several bomb throwers lost their minds as a result, and they threw explosives at their comrades. Sogden City explodes. Yennefer Fair sees more and more people dying and she is desperate. She fought through the night, but she knew she would have trouble holding off the massive army of the Nilfgaardian Empire. In the end, Yennefer made a decision. She walks towards the top of the mountain and uses her strongest sorcery. Her hand summoned huge flames, and the flames burned all of the Nilfgaardian Empire's massive army to death. Yennefer disappears in a scream of agony. No one knew if she lived or died. She chose to use all her power to win the war. The war cost many innocent lives. When the war is over, a warm-hearted uncle is cleaning up the remains. Geralt is looking for Cyrilla, and he passes by. He persuades his uncle not to waste his efforts, but the uncle insists on continuing, and luckily, the remains attract ghouls, who rest during the day and are active at night. They like to eat human remains. The ghouls crawl out of the ground and attack the uncle, who is unable to fight back. He keeps crawling forward and tries to escape. Seeing this, Geralt kills Ghoul with his weapon, but the ghouls are so numerous that they come at Geralt like a tidal wave. Despite Geralt's fighting strength and spells, he kills the ghouls one by one, but he also suffered a wound to his thigh, and soon he fell unconscious. When he opens his eyes again, he sees that he is in his uncle's wagon. Geralt is delirious with pain and sees images from his childhood. He even sees his mom, who has been missing for many years. Mom abandons Geralt for some reason and gives him to a witcher. This is why Geralt became the Witcher, in order to stay awake. Geralt drinks a potion he made himself. Then he poured the rest of the potion on the wound on his thigh. But the potion didn't work very well. Geralt sees a lot of people who are important to him during his fuzzy consciousness. Yennefer appears in front of him and she is whispering. Then Mama's face becomes clearer and clearer as she treats Geralt. She wants Geralt to forget about the past and move on to find his destiny. Geralt doesn't know if this is a dream or reality, but his wounds have healed. He is also more determined to find Cyrilla. At this time, his warm-hearted uncle has brought him to his home. Predestination is also manifested in this moment. Because the uncle and the woman who adopted Cyrilla are a couple, Cyrilla is also here. Finally, Geralt and Cyrilla meet in the forest. They embrace tightly. They have found the person who was most important to them in their destiny. The girl disliked by her family becomes the most powerful female warlock. The war between empires seems to be over for the time being, and the people of Predestination meet again. This is the end of the first season of The Witcher, but their story is still very much alive in the second season. Stay tuned for more. A huge spider monster jumps out of the lake, and it will endanger the world. Suddenly a warrior appears, and he cuts off one of the spider monster's legs with his sword. The warrior does not feel intimidated by the spider monster. He keeps swinging his weapon, and another leg of the spider monster is cut off. The spider monster burst into power and it tried to fight back against the warrior. The warrior's weapon falls to the ground, and his neck is choked by the spider monster. Even his head is attacked. The warrior uses all his strength and escapes from the spider monster. Finally, he cuts off the monster's head. The confrontation is won by the warrior. The spider monster is just one of the monsters that the warrior kills. The warrior is a famous witcher named Geralt. He can kill any monster if he is paid enough, but he is not respected because people think he kills too much. His hands are covered in blood. When Geralt comes to the tavern to collect his bounty, everyone looks at him with disgust. Some people provoke Geralt with provocation, and others pick up weapons and try to drive him away. The atmosphere became more and more tense. But a woman dressed in red stops everyone. She is prestigious in the tavern. The woman handed Geralt a glass of wine, and she seemed to have something to ask for help. Before the woman can say the request, however, a little girl interrupts them. The little girl states that there is an urgent mission needs to be completed by Geralt for more bounty. Geralt and the little girl leave the tavern. They go to the client's home together. The little girl admires the Witcher so much that she keeps talking to Geralt. The door of the client's house is enchanted, and normal people can't break the magic and walk in, but it is not difficult for Geralt. The client is Stregober, a famous sorcerer in the town. He asks Geralt to kill the woman in red. Geralt is very shocked because he only kills monsters. He doesn't kill people. Geralt asks Stregober why. Stregober says that the woman in red is named Renfri, and that she was once a princess. Renfri was born shortly after the eclipse and has a very violent personality. Stregober predicts that she is a monster and that her destiny is to be killed. Stregober has been tracking Renfri for many years, but has not been able to complete his mission. Geralt believes that as a demon hunter, he should remain neutral, and not to kill people is his bottom line. Geralt still refuses the commission mission, but Stregober cautions Geralt you have to choose the lesser evil. As a sorcerer, Stregober believes in prophecy and predestination. This is something he must do. time, he wants Geralt to think it over. Geralt leaves Stregobre's house. He meets up with Renfri in the forest. Because Geralt does not want to hurt her, he can only warn her to leave town for the day. However, Renfri says that she too has a commission that she wants Geralt to fulfill. Her commission is to kill Stregobo. Because Stregobo has ruined her life. She used to be a noble princess, but now she can only keep running for her life. She even becomes a bandit leader. But Geralt says that killing those people will only show that Renfri is a real monster. His words seem to move Renfri and she says she will leave tonight. She kisses Renfri in gratitude, but after that kiss, Renfri falls into a coma. When he wakes up again, he realizes that he has been tricked. All of his belongings has been stolen by Renfri. Geralt is so angry that he runs back to the town to find Renfri, but all of her associates are standing in front of the tavern with weapons in their hands. They even say that the little girl who led the way for Geralt yesterday has been taken hostage. Renfri threatens that Geralt must kill Stregober. Geralt feels so helpless that he has to break his bottom line. He has to fight with Renfri's gang and just save the innocent little girl. Suddenly an arrow is shot at Geralt, but he copes with it very easily. Geralt's sword kept plunging into the enemy's body because normal people are no match for demon hunters. Soon, Geralt kills Renfri's companion. Geralt used sorcery to try to confuse Renfri's mind, but the sorcery doesn't work on her. In order to save the little girl, Geralt can only continue to attack Renfri with his weapon. In fact, Geralt still doesn't want to hurt Renfri. His weapon crosses in front of Stregober's throat, but he stops moving. But Renfri has lost her mind, and she keeps attacking Geralt. Eventually, Geralt's dagger stabs into Renfri's neck. At this time, Stregober also arrives. He is very happy to see Stregober's body. He tries to disembowel the body and study it, but Geralt stops him, which makes Stregober very angry. He describes Geralt as a murderer with blood on his hands and leads the people to attack him. Stones keep hitting Geralt, and he is called the Butcher. Even the girl who admired him so much starts to drive him away. In the end, he has no choice but to leave the town. He never comes back. After leaving town, Geralt begins a life of wandering. In his spare time, he likes to have a drink at the tavern. Today, he meets a bard who is performing. He keeps playing instruments and singing. He adapts the things he has experienced into stories, and then composes them into songs. The bard is named Dandelion and he has heard about Geralt becoming a butcher. He is very interested in Geralt and strikes up a conversation. When Geralt tells him that he has received a new commission, Dandelion decides to go with Geralt to record the story of the Witcher, but Geralt gets impatient with Dandelion and even punches him. But Dandelion doesn't give up following. The new mission is to kill a goat monster that steals food. Soon, they arrive at the field to stop Dandelion from causing trouble. Geralt knocks him out. While Geralt is investigating, the goat monster bursts out of the field and it knocks Geralt off his feet. The Witcher hunter immediately explodes with power and he fights back against the goat monster. The goat monster is knocked down and it is very angry and keeps insulting Geralt. But Geralt doesn't want to kill the goat monster. Suddenly, Geralt was knocked out by the elves. They take Geralt and Dandelion back to the tribe. They keep beating Geralt because the elves hate humans and demon hunters. The elves are always driven away by the humans, and their civilization is gradually disappearing because of the expansion of the humans. They even need the goat monsters to steal food in order to continue to survive. But Geralt persuades the elves that they should learn to get along with the humans. The goat monster also pleads for Geralt's mercy because he did not kill himself. In the end, the elves let Geralt go, and Geralt gives the goat monster the bounty for his work. He continues on his journey with Dandelion as they already have a new mission. His destination is another country, Temeria. In Temeria, there is a very scary bird named Striga, which has killed many miners. The miners collected 3,000 coins to hire a witch to kill Striga. A witch accepts the mission and goes to Striga's castle, but unfortunately, he is killed by Striga. When the miners didn't know what to do, Geralt appeared. He says he can finish the quest and collect the money after he finished the quest. The miners are happy, but the soldiers come to stop them, and they try to deport Geralt. As they walk towards the gates, the soldiers suddenly faint. A woman in a cloak appears. She is a sorcerer and her name is Triss. She wants Geralt to help her with her mission, but instead of killing Striga, she wants to help lift its curse. Geralt investigates Striga with Triss, and he learns where Striga came from. Because the king of Temeria and her sister fell in love, they gave birth to the monster Striga. But why did the king of Temeria and her sister fall in love with each other? It was because a sorcerer had cursed them. When Geralt tells the king about this, he is determined to help Striga break the curse, and to punish the sorcerer. They tie up the sorcerer in his lair and lure Striga into appearing. Soon Geralt hears the coffin being opened and Striga howling. The sorcerer struggles desperately. Suddenly, he feels something falling behind him. him, but he didn't see anything. By the time he looks around again, Striga has killed him. Striga's palms are covered in blood, and the floor is covered in blood. Geralt knows it's time for action, and he rushes in with the silver chain. He throws the silver chain out, and it quickly wraps around Striga. However, Striga easily breaks free and then flies up and lunges at Geralt, who keeps fighting back and even uses a spell. The Striga is injured, but it is still very powerful, and Geralt is thrown to the ground. Unable to move, Striga opens its huge mouth, and Geralt can only unleash the spell again. The spell shatters the floor, and the shards of the Striga are destroyed, and Geralt can't move. The spell shatters the floor and debris falls from the second floor and crushes the Striga. The Striga quickly regains its strength and throws Geralt off the floor, where he crashes into a pillar. Though Geralt is an outstanding witch, he is out of stamina. He seems to have lost the ability to fight back. Suddenly the Striga stops attacking and runs away, and Geralt is puzzled until he sees the sun coming up. Strig is afraid of the sunlight. It tries to hide in the coffin again. He forces Striga to be bathed in sunlight, and the curse on it is lifted. After some time, Geralt climbs out of the coffin. He sees a smoking woman on the ground. Although Striga has been lifted from the curse, she still resembles the beast. She attacks the weakened Geralt again. Luckily, Triss saves her and takes him home for his healing. Triss has great respect for Geralt, and they become friends. And Triss says that while he was in a coma, he kept yelling out the name Renfri. Renfri's death made Geralt feel very guilty. That's why he decides to lift Striga's curse, because they're both princesses. Geralt tries to make amends. When Geralt recovers, he continues his wanderings with the bard Dandelion. After leaving Demeria, they come to the forest. Geralt knows of a powerful elf that lives in the lake. Its name is Jin, and it can grant 3 wishes to its master unconditional. Geralt awakens to find Jin and tames it. He uses a fishing net to fish in the lake. Dandelion keeps nagging him that Geralt must have failed, and Geralt becomes more and more annoyed. Before he gets completely pissed off, he reaps a reward. The fishing net catches a bottle, in which Jin lives. Dandelion's attitude begins to change, and he tries to grab the bottle. He takes the bottle, and the lid is in Geralt's hands. Dandelion thinks he is Jin's master, and he starts to make a wish. Dandelion's voice is very loud. Geralt was getting angry and yelled, "I wish you'd be quiet." Suddenly, there is a strong wind in the forest and Dandelion feels sick. Dandelion is also feeling sick, because Geralt is the master of Jin, and Jin is granting him his first wish. The sorcery is about to take away Dandelion's voice, and he even vomits blood. Geralt realizes that something is wrong, and that Dandelion must be treated immediately. They ride to a nearby town for help. An elven doctor offers them a potion, but he says that his sorcery is not strong enough. If they want to heal the damage, they need to find Yennefer, a powerful female sorcerer. After asking around, they learn that Yennefer is having a party at the mayor's house. When Geralt first meets Yennefer, he is shocked by her beauty, but even more impressed by her magical powers. Because Yennefer has control of everyone with her sorcery, they are enjoying each other as flesh. Yennefer says she has heard about Geralt. When she finds out what happened to Dandelion, she offers to help. However, Geralt soon realizes something is wrong. He sees Yennefer setting up a spell on the ground. He knows that Yennefer wants to be Jin's master as well. Geralt tries to expose Yennefer's behavior. However, Yennefer keeps approaching Geralt and offers her kiss. Soon after, Geralt faints. This is the second time Geralt has fainted from a woman's kiss. It's funny, when Geralt awakens, he has been imprisoned. He knows that he has been tricked and that Dandelion is in danger. Because the jailer is controlled by Yennefer's sorcery, Geralt is beaten, not wanting to hurt ordinary people. Geralt doesn't fight back, but he can't take it anymore. He yells and lets the cursed jailer die. The next moment, the jailer's head is gone, and Geralt remembers that it was Jin who helped him get his second wish. Geralt has no time to repent. He needs to save Dandelion. At this moment, Yennefer has begun to use her magic power, and she tries to subdue Jin. Luckily for Dandelion, he escapes and meets up with Geralt. When he learns of Yennefer's madness, he decides to stop her. Geralt sees that powerful sorcery is consuming Yennefer, a force he cannot defeat. The only one who can defeat Jin is Jin himself. Geralt can only utter a third wish, and his life becomes linked to Yennefer, because Jin cannot kill its master. When Geralt's life is linked to Yennefer, Yennefer is safe. Soon the sorcery dissipated. The house begins to collapse. Luckily, neither Geralt nor Yennefer were hurt. They even became attached. Although they hadn't known each other for a long time, but powerful people always attract each other. They became more and more familiar, and Geralt learned about Yennefer's story. Her life experience is more exciting than Geralt's. Soon, they begin a new journey. The princess is enjoying bath time. She sits up from her bubble bath because she feels like someone is spying on her. Soon she sees a skirt on the chair that doesn't belong to her. She steps out of the tub and then picks up the dress to check it out. Finally, she chooses to put on the dress. After washing up, the princess soon fell asleep in her bed. The monster that spied on her appears on the ceiling and it is crawling. The monster's limbs are twisted, but it moves quickly. It keeps its eyes on the princess. She crawls along the wall to the floor and makes her way to the princess's bedside. Surprisingly, instead of hurting the princess, the monster helped her wipe the tears off her face. The princess woke up, and she feels nervous at the sight of the monster. But soon she realizes that the monster didn't hurt her. They talk for a while like friends. Finally, the monster kisses the princess's hand and leaves the room. The Witcher Geralt senses the monster's scent and opens the door of the princess's room. But he sees that the princess is sleeping. He remains alert, and then comes to his friend's room. The monster is eating his friend's body. Before Geralt starts attacking, the monster has already let out a roar. The sound waves and air currents pressed Geralt against the wall and he could not move. Geralt quickly tracks down the monster. He listens carefully to the sound and locks onto the monster's location. Geralt launches an attack with his spear and the monster falls from the ceiling. The monster tries to bite Geralt. He uses a sorcery and pushes the monster out of the window. Princess Cirilla is awake by the noise. She comes outside the manor and sees that the monster is injured. The monster keeps turning its body and then attacks Geralt again with a roar. He can only use sorcery to fight back. Soon, the monster turns into a huge bat and keeps on flying. Geralt holds his sword tightly. When he feels the bat approaching, he quickly stabs his sword at the bat. The bat turned back to its human form lying in the snow without any clothes on it. Cirilla feels some pity for it and she puts her clothes over the monster. She tries to explain to Geralt that the monster didn't hurt her. Suddenly the monster takes Cirilla hostage and she threatens Geralt to let herself go. Surprisingly, Geralt's friend stabs his spear into the monster's body, but the danger isn't over. The monster's body convulses and her bones change. Her head is spinning. The monster wanted to die with that friend. Luckily, Geralt quickly kills the monster with his knife. The monster's demon body gave birth to flames and she burnt to ashes. That friend's body also changed. His curse is lifted and he turns back into a human form. Because the friend falls in love with the monster, he lets the monster eat his blood every night. So his curse couldn't be lifted and he couldn't change back to his human form. Even though he is back to his original form now, he becomes an ordinary human. He lost his sorcery and his lover. His life becomes boring and he asks Geralt to kill himself as well. But Geralt did not respond to his request because the Witcher only kills monster but not people. He reminisces about the happy times he had with his friend at the manor. The friend invited them to join him for dinner, even though the table is empty. But with a wave of his hand, a sumptuous dinner fell from the ceiling. He prepares pig's trotters especially for Geralt. The friend is kind, and Geralt admonishes his friend to live a good life before he and Princess Cirilla leave the manor. Geralt and Cirilla walk through the ice. After a long trek, they arrive at Kaer Morhen. This is the home of the Witcher. Every winter the Witcher returns here to recuperate. Geralt plans to live here with Cirilla for a while to prevent Cirilla from being taken. Cirilla to Cirilla's how many the Witcher are left. Geralt says there are 20. But back at the Witcher's base camp, Geralt sees the Witcher having an orgy with prostitutes. The prostitutes stand on tables and dance. They are kissing the Witcher. Some even take off their clothes. One of the prostitutes invites Geralt to join them, but Geralt refuses. When the Witcher sees Geralt coming home, they all hug him warmly. They also meet Vesemir, the leader of the Witcher. He is Geralt's adoptive father and he teaches Geralt many skills. Soon, the last member of the Witcher, Eskel, also returns to base camp. He explains that he was late because he had a fierce battle with Leshy. Although his back is injured, he cuts off Leshy's arm as a trophy. The Witchers don't care. They continue to drink and celebrate, which makes Cirilla feel like she is home and she is happy. But Geralt didn't revel in the atmosphere. He comes to the practice field and keeps practicing his swordplay. He is very strict with himself. Vesemir comes to talk to him and asks where Cirilla came from. Geralt tells Vesemir the story of Cirilla's experience and the fateful story between the two of them. Geralt wants Cirilla to spend a safe time in Kaer Morhen. Vesemir agrees. Geralt is intrigued by Eskel's lute. He begins to deconstruct Leshy's arm. Soon he realizes that Leshy is no ordinary monster. He warns Eskel to be safe and to treat the wound on his back as soon as possible. However, Eskel does not believe Geralt, and they have an argument. Geralt feels helpless, and he has to leave. But Geralt's suspicions are correct. Eskel's wound grows a branch. Soon everyone realizes that something is wrong because all the Witcher badges are shaking, which means that a monster is coming. This means that a monster has appeared. The Witcher enters battle mode. They look around for Eskel, but they are attacked by monsters. Even though Geralt keeps chopping off branches, he gets entangled in them. He is in pain and can't move. Leshy crawls in through the window and keeps coming closer to Geralt. Geralt uses all his strength and grabs a torch. Leshy is afraid of the fire fire and cuts Geralt free. But the fight is not over yet. Geralt corners Leshy with the fire. He looks closely and he sees Eskel and Leshy fused together. Eskel has been infected and controlled. He doesn't want to hurt his companion, but Eskel has lost his mind. Geralt is bound by branches coming from all sides. Luckily, Weismer comes and saves Geralt by hitting Leshy with an axe. They start fighting again using chains. In the end, they are very helpless and kill Eskel, who turns into a monster. Weismer is very sad. Weismer is very sad because several Witcher died during the fight with Leshy. The number of Witcher is still decreasing. He hangs the necklaces of the fallen members on a tree as a memorial. After the events at the manor and Eskel, Geralt is having second thoughts. He knows that the whole world is full of danger and Cirilla must learn to protect herself. He decides to train Cirilla to become the Witcher. Soon, Cirilla starts to learn sword fighting. Geralt is satisfied with Cirilla's seriousness as she keeps cutting the scarecrow with her sword. Geralt is happy, but practicing swordplay isn't enough. Kaer Morhen has a training stake. The stake has many mechanisms and is very dangerous, but the swinging stake doesn't frighten Cirilla, and she begins to try. It's clear that Cirilla can't conquer it yet. She keeps falling down and getting back up again. She gets a lot of bruises and cuts on her body, but Cirilla still didn't give up. After hundreds of attempts, she successfully completed the stake training, but the Witcher didn't praise her and even advised her to give up. Cirilla refuses to give up and starts the next training right away. She sees that the blade is spinning and she could easily get hurt, but she doesn't back down and even deftly dodges all the blades. Cirilla runs on the planks of the stone wall and then tries to jump using the ropes. More and more Witcher gathered around, and Geralt eyed her, but unfortunately, Cirilla falls to the ground. Geralt persuades Cirilla to rest and takes her back into the room to treat her wounds. Suddenly, Geralt senses that danger is approaching. He sees Leshy's branch in Cirilla's room. This means that the real Leshy is not dead yet, and its next target may be Cirilla. His suspicion is correct. When Geralt goes to the forest to practice with Cirilla, they meet the real Leshy. It maneuvers the branch to attack. Geralt cuts the branch with his sword, but Cirilla is caught by the branch. However, when they think they are going to fight Leshy, something unexpected happens. A more powerful centipede monster appears and it tears Leshy apart. Geralt tells Cirilla to run away and he fights alone, but the centipede monster is so powerful that it throws Geralt out of the way. Then it continues to chase Cirilla. She runs from the woods to the canyon and hides in the rocks. The centipede monster finds Cirilla and it tries to capture her. Cirilla clings to the rocks, afraid to move. Luckily, Geralt comes and kills the centipede monster. As the monsters appeared one after another, Cirilla knows she needs to practice harder. The next day, she resumes her training with Geralt. She runs along the river and then dodges obstacles in the woods. Cirilla keeps falling and she gets new cuts on her face. Suddenly she hears a stranger's voice, which makes Cirilla become nervous. But the stranger is not a bad person. She is Triss, the female sorcerer who had killed Strigo with Geralt. She has come to Kaer Morhen for some purpose, and she picks up a flower and gives it to Cirilla as a sign of friendship. Geralt returns from his hunting trip and is happy to see his old friend. They soon return to the Witcher's base camp together. Geralt tells Triss about his recent experience, and they both wonder why the monsters are interested in Cirilla. They decide to investigate. First, Geralt and Weismer dissect Eskel's body, trying to find clues related to Leshy from him, but they don't get much. Then they continue to investigate the centipede monster. Geralt invites Triss to help himself. Triss puts the skin tissue of the centipede monster into the lab equipment. They will get the result in 12 hours. Triss hoped that Geralt could stay with her, but Geralt refused. This makes Triss a little disappointed. Cirilla's life has changed since Triss comes to Kaer Morhen, because Triss cares for her in a feminine way. They talk together and Triss teaches her a lot. 12 hours pass and they get the lab results. The monster's body contains stellacite. Surprisingly, Cirilla knows where stellacite comes from. She recalls her roar shattering the ground after the Nilfgaardian Empire army captured her. Eventually, she escaped from the army leader. In addition to the ground being shattered, the monolith also broke and collapsed. Monolith is made up of stellacite. She was in the desert and saw the stellacite again, so they guess that the monster that attacked Cirilla is related to Monolith. Geralt decides to go to Monolith to investigate, but it's a long way from Kaer Morhen to Monolith. Triss says she can summon a portal with her spells, and she has a warlock friend who is also investigating Monolith, and Triss suggests they can work together. The next moment, Geralt is on the other side of the portal. The warlock who is investigating Monolith is none other than Istrid. They both have stories about Yennefer. It's interesting, but they have the same goal now. They want to investigate everything about Monolith, although Geralt has left. Cirilla is not alone in Kaer Morhen. Vesemir and Triss take good care of her. Vesemir talks to her about the history of Kaer Morhen and shows her the weapons the Witcher uses. He goes to check out the forest where where Cyrilla trains to prevent the monsters from attacking again. However, Vesemir notices that a purple flower is growing where Cyrilla was injured. This flower needs elder blood to be watered in order to grow. This means that Cyrilla has elder blood inside her body. Vesemir is very excited because the Witcher transformation inducer also needs elder blood. Now the number of the Witcher is getting smaller and smaller. If we can get Cyrilla's help, more people will become the Witcher. Vesemir brings the flower back to the Witcher base camp. He has a new plan. What will be the new story of Cyrilla? The monster swoops from the sky and it tries to attack Geralt. Geralt doesn't flinch and he uses a spell to repel the monster. The monster loses its balance and almost falls into the water, but soon it attacks Geralt and the princess again. The monster keeps flapping its wings, pretending to attack the warrior, but its real target is Princess Cyrilla. She falls off her horse and Geralt tells the princess to run. Luckily, both Geralt and Cyrilla are not hurt, but their horse died. They were very sad and kept petting the horse, hoping it would suffer less. Geralt can't stand it more. He wants to avenge the horse. He told Cyrilla to walk to the top of the hill, and then he drank a potion that could enhance his fighting ability. Soon, black spots appear on Geralt's face. The pupils also turn black. When Cyrilla arrives at the top of the hill, the monster quickly flies towards her. But this time, Cyrilla doesn't run away. She watches the monster swoop down on her. At the dangerous moment, Geralt jumps up from the cliff, and then he plunges his dagger into the monster's body. The dagger cuts its body open, and the monster falls into the forest. It was already dead. No matter how fierce the monster was, Geralt always had a way to kill them. Cyrilla admired him so much that she even wanted to become a Witcher as well. To become a Witcher, you need to be injected with a special potion, which is difficult to make, but Cyrilla has elder blood in her body that can help. She finds Vesemir, the leader of the Witcher, and speaks her mind. Vesemir is a bit hesitant because the process of becoming a Witcher is fraught with danger, but he badly needs Cyrilla's blood to make a potion. He agrees to Cyrilla's request. With the help of Warlock Triss, they take Cyrilla's blood. Then they add some herbs to the blood. Triss recites a spell and Cyrilla's blood turns black. The potion is done. Cyrilla lies on the bed and Vesemir checks with her again if she really wants to be injected with the potion. He gets an affirmative answer. The needle is about to stab Cyrilla's arm when Geralt suddenly appears to stop. He believes that there are very few survivors who manage to survive the injection of the potion and become the witch. He doesn't. He wants Cyrilla to take the risk. Cyrilla is very sad because she feels she is not capable of protecting herself, though she tries hard to practice her sword fighting every day, and falls down and gets back up over and over again during stake training. But she is still not strong enough. When facing monsters, she could only run away. She even often had nightmares. In her dreams, she sees her mom and dad who have died, and Cyrilla is still a baby. But soon, her mom, Princess Pavetta, got hurt. Blood keeps coming out and she loses the ability to protect Cyrilla. However, when Triss tries to help Princess Pavetta, she suddenly chokes Triss. Her eyeballs turn white, and she keeps saying curses. In the next second, the sky turns orange. An army rushes towards Cyrilla and she is very scared and keeps screaming. Both the monster and the army want to arrest Cyrilla, so she desperately wants to become stronger so she can protect herself. But Geralt says that Cyrilla has grown up a lot. Geralt decides to take Cyrilla to the temple to show the priestess that she can use her powers better. After some time of trekking, they arrive at the temple. The priestess is very happy to see them when Geralt explains his purpose. The priestess talks to Cyrilla alone and teaches her. Geralt is resting in his room and suddenly he realizes that someone is watching him. When he turns his head, he is shocked. Yennefer appears. Geralt thinks she has died in the war. The couple hug and kiss each other. They both miss each other terribly. At that moment, Cyrilla is finishing her studies and she walks inside the room. Geralt introduces her to Yennefer, and they eat dinner and talk together as a family. Cyrilla thinks that Geralt and Yennefer need to spend some time together, and she leaves the table early. On her way back to her room, however, Cyrilla sees a book on the floor. There are blood stains on the book, which intrigues Cyrilla. She follows the blood stains to the room and finds a boy who has died. His killers show up, and they target Cyrilla. Cyrilla tries to fight back and she smashes one of the men unconscious, but the others quickly use sorcery, and a fire ignites around Cyrilla. She is very scared. Luckily, Geralt and Yennefer arrive to save her. Geralt tells Yennefer to take Cyrilla away and he fights alone. Although Geralt didn't use a weapon, he still defeats many bad guys. No one can hurt him. The leader of the bad guys knows that he can defeat Geralt, and he starts to track down Yennefer and Cyrilla. He uses a sorcery and tries to set the door of the room on fire. Smoke billows through the door into the room and Yennefer and Cyrilla panic. Yennefer has temporarily lost her sorcery sorcery because of the war and she can do anything. She begins to instruct Cyrilla in the use of the sorcery and hopes that she can summon a portal to get out of here. After many attempts, Cyrilla manages to summon the portal. At this time, the door to the room had burned down. Geralt sees Yennefer and Cyrilla walk into the portal. He feels very puzzled. He doesn't know why Yennefer didn't use a sorcery or where they were going. Yennefer's eyes seem to hide secrets. For some reason, Yennefer proposes to return to Cintra with Cyrilla. Cintra is Cyrilla's homeland, although Yennefer's purpose is unknown, but Cyrilla trusts her. They ride horses and begin another long journey. After some time, they reach the outskirts of Cintra, but because of the war, the bridge has been destroyed and they can't reach the other side. Yennefer encourages Cyrilla to use sorcery and teaches her. Cyrilla tries to recite a spell and the bridge rises from the river. Cyrilla's eyes begin to bleed and her body trembles. Yennefer is a little worried and she tells Cyrilla to stop, but Cyrilla keeps going. Eventually she fails, and Cyrilla breaks out in frustration and anger. Incredibly, her hissing takes on a spell-like effect. A path appears in the middle of the river. Amazing, Yennefer comforts Cyrilla, and they continue on their way to Cintra. On the way, they talk about Geralt, whom Cyrilla says she admires and is like a father to her. This reminds Yennefer of the time she and Geralt fought together. At this time they are very close to Cintra. Yennefer is also hallucinating and she sees Deathless Mother. It is a demon that feeds on pain. Yennefer is in pain because of the loss of spells from the war, so she has been controlled by Deathless Mother. Deathless Mother asks for Cyrilla, but Yennefer gets hesitant. At the same time, Cyrilla uses sorcery to feel Yennefer's thoughts. She knows that Yennefer has other plans for her, and she is furious. She thinks that Yennefer has betrayed her and Geralt. Cyrilla roars again, and her voice shatters the ground. Even the walls of the city begin to crumble. This attracts the attention of the Nilfgaardian Empire soldiers stationed in the city. They quickly set out to capture Yennefer and Cyrilla. They kept running, but the soldiers caught up with them. Yennefer loses her sorcery, so she can only pick up branches and attack the soldiers. Cyrilla is caught by the soldiers and she is pinned to the ground. Suddenly she saw her savior Geralt. No matter what the danger, Geralt always seems to be the first to arrive. Geralt kills all the soldiers and saves Yennefer and Cyrilla, but Geralt is still annoyed because Yennefer has taken Cyrilla away from him. Geralt's sword is pressed against Yennefer's neck, and he questions Yennefer about what happened, and Yennefer can only tell the truth. The woman's eyes bleed and hiss. Her hand summoned a great fire. The fire burns all the enemy soldiers to death. Because she wanted to win the war, she could sacrifice herself. Yennefer got hurt badly, and her companions were very worried. However, when the war ends, Yennefer disappears. Her companions keep searching for her. At first, the companions find the dead soldier. She hands on the soldier's body and uses a spell to read his memories before his death. But the memory only contains fragments of the battle, and she does not see Yennefer. She thinks Yennefer is dead, and screams in despair. Soon after, the companion learns that Kahir, the leader of the enemy soldiers, has become a captain. She tries to find Yennefer by the same method. She uses sorcery to torture the leader of the soldiers in an attempt to bring him to his knees. Then she puts her hand in his head and he screams out in pain. Even so, the companion fails to locate Yennefer's whereabouts. But in fact, Yennefer did not die. She had lost her sorcery abilities because she had used too many spells in the war. At this moment, Yennefer is in the woods, where she is stayed by the enemy sorcerer Vigo. They used to learn spells in the same academy. Vigo taunts Yennefer, but as they walk to the city, they are attacked. They got out of the war and were no longer able to fight. So both Yennefer and Vigo are caught, and they feel some fear. Their kidnappers are the elven chieftains, Filavandrel and Francesca. Because Yennefer has a quarter of elven blood, she knows the ancient language of the elves. She tries to get closer to the elf chief, but Yennefer doesn't have elvish ears, and the chief doesn't believe her. She even uses a sorcery to put Vigo in a coma. Yennefer is also imprisoned and has a dream while in prison. In the dream, she and the witch Geralt are married. She is even pregnant. Soon after, Yennefer gives birth to the baby, but a mysterious man dressed in red suddenly takes the baby away. Yennefer doesn't know what to do. In fact, Yennefer's uterus has been removed because she wants to become the strongest warlock, and it is impossible for her to become a mother. This caused Yennefer great pain, and the mysterious person wearing red is Deathless Mother. Deathless Mother is a demon that feeds on pain. She knows that Yennefer is in great pain because of the loss of her fertility and spellcasting ability. So she invades Yennefer's dreams and absorbs the energy of pain. When Yennefer wakes up, she realizes that she and Vigo are locked in a wagon. They have no idea where the elves are headed. During a break on the way, Yennefer and Vigo talk about their dreams. She learns that Vigo also saw a mysterious man dressed in white in her dream. Even the queen of the elves, Francesca, has the same dream. Because they all have unfulfilled wishes in their hearts, they feel miserable. Yennefer claimed to be able to interpret the dreams and asked the elves to release her. But Filavandrel didn't believe her. But he releases Yennefer and Vigo, and then takes them to the ancient ruins that appear in their dreams. torches light up the walls of the ruins, and they see the ancient culture of the elves. Soon they come to a stone slab with some writing on it. The tablet has words on it. Yennefer deciphers the words and opens the door underneath the tablet. Yennefer, Vigo and Francesca walk through the door together. On the other side of the door is the illusion. They see a small cabin. In fact, the illusion is still created by Deathless Mother. As they walk into the cabin, they all see the real Deathless Mother, who knows what each of their wishes are, and then makes some conditions. If Yennefer can help Deathless Mother find Princess Cyrilla, she will regain her fertility and spellcasting abilities. Francesca's wish is to give birth to pure-blooded fairy offspring and revive the fairy race. Deathless Mother also makes her some conditions. However, Yennefer did not agree to Deathless Mother, and Francesca follows Deathless Mother's advice and makes an alliance with the Nilfgaardian Empire, the nation that Vigo serves. Because Yennefer helped Francesca interpret the dream and find Deathless Mother, Francesca freed Yennefer and Vigo. Not long ago, the Nilfgaardian Empire occupied Sintra due to a war, and they offered Sintra to the elves for recuperation. Vigo returns to Sintra with the elves, and Yennefer returns to the Academy of Spells to find her companion. When Yennefer walks into the academy, everyone is in shock, because everyone believed that she is dead. The dean talks to Yennefer and asks her about her recent experiences. Then she tells Yennefer to take a bath with the female warlocks, not only to cleanse their bodies of filth, but also of painful experiences. However, not everyone welcomes Yennefer back. Stregobor is suspicious of Yennefer, because Yennefer disappeared for some time after the war. She stays with the people of the Nilfgaardian Empire. Stregobor thinks she is hiding secrets. He takes control of Yennefer and uses sorcery to try to pry information out of her head. Yennefer is confined to a chair and her head is hacked. She feels great pain. Fortunately, the dean comes to save Yennefer, and she rebukes Stregobor for his behavior. However, Stregobor is adamant that Yennefer prove her innocence. Yennefer is asked to kill Cahir, the leader of the soldiers of the Nilfgaardian Empire. Yennefer has no choice but to accept this request. With everyone watching, Yennefer and Cahir walk to the execution ground. The torture chamber is lit with torches, and all the warlocks wait for Cahir to be killed. A man hands the axe to Yennefer, but her action shocks everyone, for instead of killing Cahir, Yennefer uses the axe to cut the chains. Because the attitude of the Brotherhood are very disappointing to Yennefer, they stole a horse and quickly escaped. Yennefer and Cahir became wanted criminals. Wanted notices are spread throughout the city and they realize they need to get to the safety of Sintra as soon as possible. Beckhouse, the Nilfgaardian Empire soldiers, and the elves are in Sintra, but escaping from the city is not an easy task. Soon Yennefer and Cahir meet the soldiers, and they have no confrontation. They can only hide in the sewers. Surprisingly, there are some elven refugees in the sewers. Yennefer talks to them and knows that there is a man who helps the elves smuggle people across the border. If they can find him, Yennefer and Cahir will be able to enter Sintra. When Yennefer realizes who the man is, she begins to smile. The man had a very beautiful singing voice, and he was the bard Dandelion. He was a friend of Yennefer. Before the war, Geralt, Yennefer and Dandelion take part in a dragon hunt, but for various reasons they go their separate ways. Yennefer hugs Dandelion tightly and expresses how much she misses him, and Dandelion offers to assist them in their journey to Sintra. At night, Yennefer, Cahir, and the elven refugees board a ship. They are in a state of euphoria, thinking that they will be arriving in Sintra in the near future. However, something unexpected happens. Yennefer hears the sound of instruments breaking and Dandelion disappears. She is so worrying that she even abandons the boat ride. She wants to find Dandelion, but until morning, Yennefer still has not found his whereabouts. Dandelion is captured by two warlocks, who are beating him, and the warlocks demand that he reveal Yennefer's whereabouts. Dandelion keeps bleeding, but he doesn't say a word. The warlocks get angry, and he uses a spell to summon flames. Dandelion's fingers are scorched, and he feels pain. Luckily, Yennefer found them. She takes a sip of wine, and sprays the wine when the warlock summons flames again. The warlock's face is burned by the flames, and Yennefer escapes with Dandelion. This exposes Yennefer's whereabouts. Soon she is captured, again by the soldiers, and Dandelion is unable to save her. The soldiers try to kill Yennefer as quickly as possible, and she is tied to a chair. Yennefer has lost her spells and she doesn't know what to do. At that moment, Deathless Mother invades Yennefer's mind again. She offers to assist Yennefer in escaping if she helps herself to Cyrilla. Yennefer knows that she is between life and death, and she is forced to agree to Deathless Mother's request. The next moment, Yennefer escapes through a portal summoned by Deathless Mother, and Cahir arrives in Sintra by boat. He meets Vigo and he knows that he is safe. Through conversation, he learns what happened after the war, as Cahir became a prisoner of war, and Vigo returned to Sintra earlier. Most of the army in Sintra followed Vigo's orders, and she could even talk to the king king of the Nilfgaardane Empire. Cahir's position became awkward. After the elves became allies of the Nilfgaardane Empire, they moved to Sintra. The elven queen Francesca became pregnant soon after and gave birth to a pure-blooded elven offspring. All the elves feel excited. On the other side, after Yennefer agreed to Deathless Mother's request, she gets directions to a temple where Cirilla will appear. Yennefer arrives at her destination soon, except for Cirilla. She also meets her ex-lover Geralt. Geralt went to the battlefield to look for Yennefer, but the dean told him that Yennefer had died. He is very sad. They embrace tightly, but Yennefer's aim is not Geralt. She wants to take away Cirilla. At night, they are in danger. Another group of bad guys also wants to take Cirilla. Geralt fights them, and Yennefer instructs Cirilla to summon a portal. Geralt doesn't know what Yennefer wants, but in order to find Yennefer and Cirilla as soon as possible, he needs some help. The best person to do that is Dandelion. At this time, Dandelion is still in prison, and he is being treated as a criminal who assisted Yennefer's escape. Geralt rescues Dandelion and asks what happened to Yennefer. Dandelion tells Yennefer lost his spell and is under the Deathless Mother's control. He guesses that Yennefer and Cirilla are going to Sintra. Geralt decides to find them. Dandelion's guess is correct. They find Yennefer and Cirilla on the outskirts of Sintra, where they are confronted by soldiers. Geralt joins the fight and kills all the soldiers, but he knows that the real enemy is now the Deathless Mother, because Yennefer is under her control and Cirilla will be in danger. But bad news come. Deathless Mother has gathered enough pain to break out of the hut where she is imprisoned. She turns into a ball of starfire and quickly flies towards Cirilla. Deathless Mother enters Cirilla's body and her pupils turn green. She rides her horse and eventually returns to Kaer Morhen, the witch's hometown. In order to minimize the number of opponents, Deathless Mother manipulates Cirilla into killing the witch. While the witch are sleeping, she slits their necks with a knife. Cirilla even goes so far as to kill Vesemir, the witch's leader. Fortunately, Geralt arrives at the base camp and stops Cirilla. The Deathless Mother in Cirilla's body pretends to be innocent and says that she didn't kill the witch, but Geralt sees her pupils, and he knows that this is not the real Cirilla. Deathless Mother is angry at being exposed. She hurts Geralt and leaves her behavior on Geralt of the witch. They decide to work together to kill Deathless Mother. Vesemir drinks a potion, and his pupils turn black, and his fighting strength is greatly increased. He is ready to start fighting at any time, but Geralt stops him and says he has a way to help Cirilla. Soon he negotiates with Deathless Mother. He asks Deathless Mother to leave Cirilla's body, and that he himself can be used as a vessel to contain Deathless Mother. However, Deathless Mother is not interested in Geralt, and their negotiations end in failure. The witch all raise their weapons. This princess suddenly begins to roar and creates a powerful current of air. The house is shaking, and the sound is turning the monolithic monument into fragments. The stone fragments attack the witch like bullets, and some people got hurt because they couldn't dodge in time. But the battle has just begun. Princess Cirilla summons the black portal and two huge monsters come out of the portal. Their looks are frightening. The witch keeps slashing at the monsters with their swords, but they don't have a winner. The witcher Geralt is very worrying about Cirilla getting hurt, but Cirilla can regain her senses. She even uses the portal again and summons a third monster. The ugly monster rushes towards Geralt, and he flies out of the room. He is trampled by the monstrous claws and can't move. Geralt can only use spells to repel the monster, and then continue the fight with his sword. Geralt is the strongest witcher on the continent, and he eventually defeats the monster. The monster's body fell from the castle, but Vesemir, the leader of the witch, believes that Cirilla cannot be awakened, and he plunges his dagger into Cirilla's body and tries to kill her. Surprisingly, Cirilla's wounds are healing fast. No one can hurt Cirilla, and all the witch don't know what to do. Yennefer could only cut her wrist with glass. Yennefer asks to be used as a container for Deathless Mother. This shocks Deathless Mother and she begins to leave Cirilla's body. Cirilla passes out. They see Deathless Mother turn into Starfire again and enter Yennefer's body. The black portal appeared with a strong current of air and Geralt. Yennefer and Cirilla are sucked into the portal. They arrive on a desert where there is nothing but orange dirt. Deathless Mother summons an army, an organization called Wild Hunt. They are from an alien planet, and their goal is also to get Cirilla. What new story will happen to them?